So this episode is going to be a bit different. After spending so long immersed in the dreary tragedy of Waco, I am honestly just sad. I've been making this podcast for nearly 8 years now, and I've had to wrap my head around a lot of depravity, but for some reason, the Waco story just depressed me to a new degree. For starters, being a father has changed how I want to approach true crime. Not in the sense that I want to go out there and solve a bunch of cold cases. I know that I'm ill-equipped for that. But in the sense that I want to continue to focus on the victims and tell their stories. Or how I want to tell stories that often go underreported, if not forgotten entirely. In this case, I feel like I didn't do an adequate job of either. The Waco story is infamous to a degree that most criminal cases never get to, and the victims in the story always fall by the wayside because they happen to live in the same ecosystem as David Koresh. Sadly, in a lot of these stories, the telling of them almost always ends up glorifying the wrong people. This is something that I'm aware of and want to do better on. However, in diving into Waco, I think I just wanted to gain a better understanding of the story out of my own selfish interest. This story unfolded when I was just a toddler, so I grew up with a basic understanding of it, but I didn't really dive into the nuts and bolts until just a few months ago. Me taking on this story was more about me trying to wrap my head around it than anything. I guess I just wanted to make sense out of a story that seemed to lack it entirely. When I decided to take on this Waco series, it was a pretty impulsive decision, and I just kinda wanted to figure out what the big deal was. Like I said, I knew the bare bones. I knew a little about David Koresh, a little about the FBI siege, and a little about the following investigations. But I didn't realize how relevant it all still was 30 years later. And I didn't realize that the story itself makes close to no sense, that there was no real good guy or bad guy in the story, that the Branch Davidians and the US government both fucked up countless times, and in the end, a lot of innocent people, namely children, suffered. Basically, diving into this story without much of a plan was a mistake on my part. Sometimes stories like this are just too large for any one person to ever truly understand. Some people have done a great job. If you recall back before I started this series, I interviewed Jeff Gwynne. He put out a really good book called Waco about this, and I really recommend you check it out. But I think I have struggled what I set out to do with this story. Make sense of it. I don't think I have. There are just so many aspects of the story that I wish I could have expanded upon, but I just can't do it. Like at this point, I don't have it in me. Spending most of the day taking care of my 2-year-old daughter and then having to read about the young victims killed in the building collapse or the fire, it just broke me. Like personally, I've never relished telling true crime stories. I think they're important to learn from, and I do find them interesting certainly, but I don't enjoy them, if that makes sense. Learning about each story breaks my heart a little bit, and then I try to do what I can to fill up that fracture by learning as much as I can about the story. Then I try and go the extra mile by trying to tell it to the world. Then I break my heart again by profiting from these stories, even how little I have over the years. Then I try and heal that fracture again by hearing from you, the listeners and the readers, about how I've told you these stories for the first time and you're just learning about certain details, and so on and so on. It's just a lot is what I'm trying to say, I guess. I don't know. I'm gonna be honest, the story of Waco it kind of broke me. I'm struggling to find a way to explain what I set out to do with this story, and I'm still struggling to do that. I guess I just wanted to try and figure out the story for myself, having not lived through it since it unfolded when I was just a young child and had no sense of the world. But in doing so, I ended up even more conflicted than when I started, having just replaced my initial knowledge of the case with a moral quandary of what I expect to get out of true crime. All of this to say I'm currently wandering through the ethical boundaries of hosting a true crime podcast. I try and do good. I've been told by some that I do good, but am I actually doing something good with this podcast? Honestly, you tell me. I don't know, maybe I'm just starting my midlife crisis early. Anyhow, I just wanted to thank you all for continuing to listen, and I wanted to offer up some kind of final word on the Waco series after our finale last week. A lot of things felt pretty unresolved after that, and I just wanted to let you all know why the story ended the way it did. This epilogue, or coda, or whatever I call it, is like my way of putting it to bed, so to speak. I still feel like I didn't make sense of the story in a way that I wanted to, but at least I can say that I tried. I only hope it was worth the effort. I hope you all stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll be back with another new episode soon. Until then, I'll talk to you later.